Hey everyone, Scott and Frans here, and we are very excited to be back with Rebecca Corliss, VP of Marketing at GrowthLoop. Hey Rebecca.
Hey, how you guys doing? Good to be here.
Well, we are so glad you are here. Just in case someone is tuning in and has not yet gotten to hear from you in the past, could you give an introduction to yourself and also GrowthLoop?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Rebecca. As Scott said, I lead our fantastic marketing group at GrowthLoop, which means I get to market our marketing technology to marketers. There's not much better than that. And for those who don't know GrowthLoop, we're a composable CDP that sits right on top of the data cloud. And so what that means, and a lot of the themes of today's conversation, it's all about giving marketers access to the great wealth of data in the data cloud for audience building, campaign activation, and overall just increasing the speed of campaign creation, which we believe is a key component to improving your iteration speed, which drives compounding growth, which we call compound marketing.
Compounding growth. Okay, well, we're going to definitely get into that. When we were doing the prep for this, you made a remark about the AI Martech readiness gap. What exactly are you seeing in the market right now? Like, what is this gap and how wide is it?
Yeah, what is this gap? It's a big gap, and I would say marketing leaders are on different levels of the journey on this gap. And what this gap really is a data readiness gap. And what I mean by that is it's a learning curve in terms of accepting and understanding that to really employ a fantastic AI strategy and operations, you need to invest in your data first, which often looks at thinking about the architecture and how your data will be housed, where it will live, how it will be organized in order to make AI as impactful as it could be. And so some folks are on the spectrum of didn't know that was possible and required. Some are on the mission of figuring it out. And some have actually deployed some really incredible things to make their AI possible. So we need to address that gap and move forward for that.
So if you look at the AI Martech readiness gap, what is driving the urgency? Is it the board? Is it competition? Maybe something more human, FOMO?
Is FOMO? Well, FOMO definitely exists in marketing. I think every marketer can speak to that. And there's a lot of pressure in adopting AI and thus addressing this gap because, well, what's going on? The board is putting pressure, and they're putting pressure because they know your competition. It's wise to think your competition is leveraging AI to get ahead. So make sure you're leveraging AI to get ahead. We know that marketing budgets are often constrained quite a bit right now, and yet we still need to achieve more and grow faster. And so I would say there's a lot of optimism that AI is going to be really key in helping us overcome that. And so that's really key. But we need to address this gap in order to make sure we're leveraging AI to give us the promise that we hope for in terms of improving results.
So marketers are on, different stages of this journey. When some of them come to you and they're all excited about like, okay, well, we can implement AI because it's going to let us do more with less. What's the biggest misconception that you think they have about what it takes to actually make that work?
Yeah, sometimes that optimism can come with false hope, which can be in the form of thinking AI, no matter what, is just plug and play. It'd be great if all AI were plug and play like ChatGPT. You just spin it up and start talking to it. But technology, especially technology that's going to leverage your wealth of data, is not plug and play, and you need to invest in that foundation first. And it's key to have that data investment in order to leverage it, because when you think about it, AI is only going to be impactful by the data resource that it's leveraging, and you need to make sure that those are connected in a way that's going to be really impactful.
So data sources, resources are very important, and it's often said that there's no AI strategy without a data strategy. So can you unpack that? What does a real data strategy look like versus what you see maybe with real life companies?
Yeah, we're so enthusiastic about that quote that growth loopers all have t-shirts where it has that on the
I love
back.
it. I want one of those t-shirts.
we'll hook you up. We'll hook you up. But that's how enthusiastic we are about that. So a few different things. I think it's a good moment to double click on the concept of composability. Composability is really key because that is the architectural decision that you are going to have a source of truth that is going to power your AI strategy and your AI application. So that is infrastructure and even a strategic decision that folks need to make. And so that's one of the things that goes behind the idea of you don't have a AI strategy before you have a data strategy. And so then within that is, okay, you select your source of truth and then you say, okay, how is my data going to be organized? If you have, are you a great AI team maybe, or a data science team, maybe it's what data models are you going to be using? How will you bring this work that you're working on to the different applications that you're leveraging in this almost hub and spoke model, that leverage of composability? And so it's building that foundation, because ultimately, I mean, imagine a world, I mean, it's not too far away, where every enterprise is using AI, all of them, for every use case we can think of. Now the tools are all universally accepted. It's a matter of your data and the differentiator of your data and how you've invested in your data that's actually going to make your AI more impactful. And so that's why focusing on that data strategy first, or at least in parallel, is going to be really key to make sure you have the differentiation and the impact you're looking for.
Yeah, let's come back to dig a little bit deeper on this thing about the data cloud, because I do feel like there's been this generational shift that's been happening, where, you know, we came from a world where we had very large Martech stacks, all of which had their own little database here and their own little database there, and we're throwing things from one database to another. You know, we now have this concept of a data cloud, and there's a lot of discussion around like data cloud centralization. What does this actually mean for a marketing team? You know, what are they centralizing, and maybe where are they centralizing?
And it's going to be a big learning curve for marketers, because I'll speak for myself and many others probably listening, depending on what your role is. You might have made a whole career out of your ability to use a particular tool, your whole career. And I have a lot of empathy for that. But the learning curve that's going to be necessary to actually deploy and explore data centralization is accepting that a data resource that lives outside of the tools I love is going to be better for the marketing team and the business. And that's a big moment of acceptance that folks need to think about. And that's that composability mindset. And so what then it looks like for data centralization is say, okay, I love this tool. I love this tool I use. Are the data that I am producing with it, is it being brought back to the data cloud? As I am, let's use audience creation as the example. As I'm creating audiences, am I creating audiences from whatever tool, whatever data is in my tool, or from the source of truth? That is part of data centralization. It's an opportunity for marketing ops, and we'll talk about the marketing intelligence layer, to really think about investing in how it can have this great wealth of knowledge, a single source of truth, to power all the technologies and journeys that we're building to make marketing as possible, as impactful as possible. So the GrowthLoop example I like to give. So we're a composable CDP. Audience building is one of the use cases that a lot of our customers love to use GrowthLoop for, because it's much faster and because they get to leverage the source of truth. And so we say, great, use GrowthLoop to explain the audience that you want. And you don't need to bring your data to us. That's not the composable way. Leverage the data that's in your data warehouse, your Snowflake, Google Cloud, Databricks, whatever it may be, and make sure you can then create the audience using the most fresh, up-to-date, powerful data you have, because you have that centralized data approach.
I feel like I need a t-shirt for the composable way as well, too.
The composable way.
This is the composable way.
I know. Any Star Wars fans in here? I feel like there's a Star Wars theme for something like that. Oh, that'd be good. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, one with data fader or something.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so if I listen carefully, you're saying many marketers were married with a certain tool, data inside, that's now going to be, maybe put in different sources. So here's a $1 million question. When should marketers displace existing tools versus complement them? Or maybe to put it more bluntly, when to rip and replace versus composable?
Yeah, it's important to think about this, and I might get a little controversial. I hope I don't make folks angry, but I think it's important to really, really get to the meat of it to support us. So there were a lot of technologies that were built for, I'll call it the suite, all-in-one suite approach. Every tool you could possibly need for your marketing, and that's great. And how we'll make sure you can do all that on the data that we hold for you. Adobe and Salesforce are tools that usually have that mindset. And so when you think about that, that was fantastic for, I mean, not even that long ago when you just wanted a team to be able to have all the full functionality possible and move quickly. It was the suite approach that allowed us to move fast. Well, now we're in the AI era, and it's access to data that's going to make us move fast. And the piece that's too bad is, for as long as those technologies are going to optimize for their customers to use its data, its tools, its selection, you can see it's like closed, 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 closed. It's going to create a ceiling on the ultimate AI strategy you might be able to produce. So then to complement it, I would say, maybe like, for example, audience campaigns or something like that. Maybe you have an audience campaign that you've built, but can you connect it to your source of truth? That is the composable way of using those tools. So to bring it all together, when you're assessing your tech stack, I would say, does this technology, is it have an open approach? Does it allow me to really explore an AI strategy that can be really impactful? Or does it create a ceiling that could limit the innovation that I want to have, which ultimately is going to slow me down and be quite painful long term?
Yeah, it definitely does feel like the world is pushing some of these largest vendors, albeit somewhat reluctantly, into you have to be open.
Yeah.
But all right, so it I mean, the way you've sort of framed that, is a very composable approach. It's not that we're necessarily getting rid of, all of those other products, but perhaps the way in which we interact with them, the way they like are orchestrated into, the larger marketing operations now is changing. I suppose you could, give us like a concrete example of what better together looks like in a composable architecture, like, where there's some of this new technology coming in, but it's also working perhaps with existing platforms and tools they already had in their stack.
Well, the other benefit of the composable way that we have coined in real time in this conversation is the opportunity to use, call it best in breed, best tools for your use case, your outcomes, your organization, et cetera. So that's the benefit of this open way. So in this framework, you can imagine is selecting the tools that work best for you and then applying them to the data cloud directly. And that's exactly how GrowthLoop works. So maybe there is an ESP you love. Fantastic. That's great. How can your ESP leverage the power of your data cloud? Again, to just double click on it again, where your entire company is investing. So you can send hypothetically emails based on data that maybe your product team has volunteered. The amount of personalization you can get, and which is so crucial for email, for example, is huge when it's leveraging the data cloud. So that's in the composable way. And then apply that to any type of marketing distribution you can name. So it's thinking about how can you take your data cloud and connect it to those different applications, those different channels, but you're now segmenting based off of, in this campaign activation use case, your source of truth versus, I don't know, two options, just as much as you can, bring your data to it, which I mean, clearly that is not scalable. Or if you do attempt it, it's expensive. It's never going to be up to date as what's in your data cloud. Or the inverse is you're only segmenting based off of whatever you happen to have in that tool at that moment. You can just see and apply it to the world of AI. It's just limiting.
Let's talk about the breakneck speed of AI roadmaps of vendors of AI. It looks like the process of RFPs is broken. I mean, if you create one with evaluation process today, that will take 6 to 8 months, and then you have picked your tool, another 6 to 8 months to implement. I think if you do that today, then same time next year, you'll be using some of that tool. I mean, help.
Yeah,
help.
Frans, you already answered it, my friend. Just in your question, you've already answered it. So I'll back you up. In your answer. Yeah, it's tricky for sure. And I have a lot of empathy for the RFP process because it was really created with a lot of important fundamentals in mind. I mean, it's to make sure your tool selection is subjective, that you set criteria, that your different organizations that need to be involved are all on the same page on. You're really clear on the outcomes you need to drive, and the security posture must have all that. So it's a great tool to get on the same page. But then if you think about the evaluation, all that, it just takes months and months and months. And yeah, I mean, just compare that. We'll just use our friend ChatGPT again. I mean, how quickly is it evolving its models? I mean, it's monthly, it's weekly, it's wild. So if you're trying to leverage AI technology where these vendors just inherently are trying to innovate as fast as possible, I mean, what is producing at the time of your selection could be far beyond what you were evaluating in the beginning. So it's just limiting. It doesn't match anymore. And so we're really encouraging organizations to call it some of the fundamentals that are strong within the RFP process, but put into a context where you can make selections much more quickly. And we actually see, and people are doing that even with GrowthLoop. Pilots can be a really great way to see its impact in reality instead as an alternative.
So if you're advocating for, more of these like hands-on pilots relative to the perhaps somewhat abstract and disconnected RFP process as we once knew it, what makes a good pilot versus a bad one? What are the hallmarks of a pilot that actually teaches you something?
Yeah, and I have to say, if I may take a moment, we're super proud at GrowthLoop to encourage pilots, because we think the undertone is, if we're telling you to get your hands on our technology as fast as possible, we're probably pretty proud of it. So that's great. And we hope the same for other vendors, because with as much AI change, there's a lot of skepticism. I mean, is it real? Is it real? Is it real? So that's another key benefit.
Show, don't tell.
Show, don't tell. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, what does a great pilot look like? Well, first, it's really specific. It's based off a very specific use case. This might be where it's tricky, because you'll think about all the things you want to accomplish. But again, remember, you're trying to do this in a shorter window. So a really specific use case and outcome, time bound, really clear outcomes you want to drive from this. That's the way you can be really objective in that, which is really key. And then other key things, like the similar things you'd have in the RP, like the security posture, your requirements for that also needs to be named, of course, especially if you're a larger enterprise company. So you set that and you implement it, you run it, and you see what the results are. And because it's time bound and it's specific, you're much more likely to do that quickly, and then use that as a proof point to say, okay, great. If I continued this, is this worth the long-term investment? And did I learn enough about the fundamentals to say, okay, I can imagine expanding from this use case or this specific campaign to something much larger? Can I see that scale over time? And then a bad pilot is just the opposite of all of that. It's broad, it's unspecific, it's based off of someone saying they like it versus outcome-based. I mean, you name it. So it's really key to be specific and design that campaign to have a great pilot. And then it moves quickly, so you actually get the outcome of the alternate approach to make sure you're staying up to date, moving along quickly alongside those fast AI timelines.
I feel like the degree to which we have CFOs in the audience here, they're all like smiling and say, well, it's about time. Yeah, I like this approach.
Good.
I want to go back to something you said earlier at the beginning. This super interesting phrase about like a marketing intelligence layer. All right, so what is this? Who should own it? And how is it different from what we've been doing with marketing ops to date?
Yeah, well, I knew you'd like that, Scott, because you like talking about layers. I see lots of layers.
I feel like there's a Shrek reference here of some kind. Yes, stacks have layers, like onions and ogres. Okay.
Yes,
sorry,
onions and ogres and Martech. What do they have in common? Layers. Great. So the first way I like to think about it is I'm actually going to apply it to organizational structure versus technology. So the marketing team we're seeing evolve right now, and I think we're going to see more of, is a three-tier structure of, first, your typical layer, which is your C-suite, your marketing C-suite. What may be different in that is most likely they're hopefully more connected to the data organization. There's a strong tie between VP of data and VP of marketing, or CMO in the C-suite associated with data. So that exists. Then there's the marketing intelligence layer, which is going to be expansion of the marketing ops group, which I'll double click on in a moment. And then lastly, we're seeing these business units that may be organized around customer journey stage or a product or an objective, something like that. So very cool. So we'll go to that middle. So what we're seeing is an evolution, really a strategic evolution of marketing ops into this strategic player that is not only owning the systems, but they're also now thinking about that data investment that we talked about. They're thinking about how AI orchestration can power the whole organization. They're thinking about AI and data and their Martech tools for outcomes, particularly. And I also like to affectionately call this layer the dispatch group, because they're acting as a traffic cop in terms of how, for example, let's say in a world of one-to-one marketing, which I don't think is too far away, in a world of one-to-one marketing, what customer is in which campaign based off of what in their journey right now. So they're acting as that traffic cop. And I think it's going to be a really a powerful group that's making this new outcome-focused marketing powered by AI come to life. And it's going to be a big deal for those individuals and a big career opportunity too.
Yeah.
All right. So that outcome-based way of working in marketing, combined with the conversation we had earlier in the preparations about the transformation of the role of marketing. You've said that channel marketers need to become life cycle or customer experience marketers. And so what is the practical difference between optimizing channels versus optimizing outcomes?
Sure. And I'll go so far to say channel marketer friends, hold on tight, get ready to evolve, because the role could even be at risk of becoming obsolete. So bear with us. But we're not too late. We're not too late to evolve. We're right on time. So that's the optimist in me speaking. We're right on time. So how is it different? So we talked about one-to-one marketing, or at least we touched upon it as a concept. We're not too far away. We talked about the marketing intelligence group acting as that traffic cop, saying, okay, Scott is at this point in his life cycle, he really leverages TikTok. Now I feel like making TikTok's your channel of choice, right, Scott? Must be.
You figured me out, yeah.
So TikTok is the best place to reach him. This is his likely next action that he'll achieve, so on and so forth. So we're creating a life cycle for Scott, a campaign for Scott. Great. Well, in that world, say you're a channel marketer optimizing TikTok and Facebook, Meta, whatever, you ultimately have the most optimized channel possible when it's only being used to serve a customer only in their time of need when it makes sense to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that it's a completely different mindset. So what does the channel marketer do? They flip it and say, okay, I'm now a life cycle marketer. I'm now a student of the customer journey, and I am flexing my customer empathy skills because I'm going to think about how to use what channels and when, what is the ideal buyer's journey for that individual? How can I really speak to their motivations in order to bring them along and use the channel when necessary? And so it's a win-win because it's a better experience for the customer, likely to be more likely to reach the company's goals, and be an optimization of the channel inherently because you're only using it when you need it in the best possible circumstances.
Feels like this is actually a question not just on the minds of channel marketers, although I'm sure now it's very much on the mind of channel marketers. The whole AI won't take my job, will it? Beyond channel marketers, like what skills should marketers be actively developing right now to stay relevant and in demand in 2026?
Sure. So the counter to that question, which we're all asking, which I think other folks have heard, is AI won't take your job, but a marketer who's great at AI might. I like that as a retort, and it makes a lot of sense. And so what other skills can we learn? So it's being a student of the customer. It's really flexing your customer empathy. I mean, a marketer with strong customer empathy with AI in their hands, I mean, they're unstoppable. That's incredible because that person is going to have really great discernment to manage AI because they have that empathy in mind. So I think that's really powerful. I think they're likely students of the data and data centralization. They're likely a champion to think about how the whole org can continually invest in that data resource to support the overall AI strategy. And so to summarize, getting proximity to data, customer empathy, buyer's journey, and driving to outcome and just being obsessed about outcome, those are going to be key characteristics that are going to make for exceptionally strong marketers in this next phase.
Nice.
Talking about the next phase, 2026 is around the corner. So if you would give marketers just one piece of advice for preparing for AI and Martech in the next year, something they should focus on, what would it be?
I'm going to say for that, if you're a marketing leader, I'll say it to the marketing leader or the marketer. If you're a marketing leader, name your deputy that's going to champion that marketing intelligence layer, that marketing intelligence group. Name your deputy. Who are you going to empower to drive some change management, move things forward? That's a huge opportunity for them and a huge opportunity for the org. So make that decision, because they're going to think about the data centralization. They're going to review your tech stack. Are you enabled for AI, or is there any technology that's limiting you, and move that group forward? So name your deputy. And then if you're not the marketing leader, say, if not me, then who? Can I be that leader? Can I be the one that drives the change forward and bring this point of view, have those conversations with marketing leaderships to make sure you're thinking about all the key requirements to get to this next layer? Because when we talked about that gap, you don't want to fall trapped to the gap of saying, okay, let's use AI before having that investment first that's going to make data your differentiator for your AI impact.
You brought up our favorite agent of all, the change agent.
The change agent.
Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us again here. Yeah, we just really appreciate your wisdom and insight on this, but also just your infectious enthusiasm. This is such a great opportunity for marketers who want to embrace it. So thank you again for joining us, and wishing you the absolute best in 2026 yourself.
Awesome. My pleasure. Until next time, right?
Sounds good.
Looking forward to it.